DarkOfAllTrades presents Professor Dark Explains Logical Fallacies. Appeal to authority. This is also known as the appeal to false authority, in Latin, argumentum ad verecundium. This occurs when one asserts that an argument or proposition is true simply because someone who may be an authority on the subject says it is true, specifically appealing to the person's credentials as the demonstration rather than the actual evidence that person presents. In its logical form, the appeal to authority looks like this. According to person X, who is an authority on the subject, this proposition is true. Therefore, this proposition is true. Note: in this lesson, we are going to go over specifically the fallacious appeal to authority. There are experts in their fields where we can trust them when they say something is true or likely true. For example, when someone wants to put forth evidence for a subject that tends to be outside of common knowledge, such as advanced astrophysics, it may be acceptable to back up your claim with a quote from an astrophysicist. Appealing to an authority may not necessarily be a fallacy if the authority to which you are appealing is actually an authority on the subject. Note: even citing people who have expertise in a relevant field can be a fallacious appeal to authority in some situations. Some examples. 1. The president of the company said that sales are down even though the report said there was record profit that period. Therefore, the report must have been wrong. 2. Some number of climate scientists say that humans are not affecting the climate, therefore humans are not affecting the climate. 3. The doctor said I have this medical condition, but I know my body and I don't have it. 4. My doctor told me that vaccines cause autism. He is a doctor, so he should know. An example from Apologetics. Often, when in a conversation with a religious person from any major religion, inevitably they will cite their holy book, typically the Bible or the Quran. In the former case, people will cite one of the four Gospels as an eyewitness testimony to show that a man named Jesus died and was resurrected. The main issue with this is that those accounts are anonymous. We don't know who actually wrote them, so the authors cannot be used as an authority on what actually happened. The Quran suffers a similar issue, even granting that it was entirely written by some guy in the late 6th century named Muhammad. Simply asserting that something is true because the guy Mo said it's true falls under the category of appeal to authority. The typical response to calling out these two arguments tends to lead to the assertion that they were inspired by a god of some kind. This is another assertion that needs to be demonstrated and has not been shown, if it is even possible to show. Simply because a book says something does not make it true. How to avoid this fallacy. If you want to cite an authority, make sure that what you are citing is general consensus among those experts. For example, if you are arguing that black holes exist, you can cite the overwhelming consensus of astrophysicists. If you want to argue against vaccines causing autism, you can cite the overwhelming consensus of immunologists. When possible, be sure to cite the evidence that an expert has rather than just the expert themselves. Also, be ready with other sources that back up the authority you are citing. Dealing with this fallacy. If you think someone is using the argument from authority, ask for the evidence that the cited expert has. When in a discussion or debate, be ready with your own counter-evidence that goes against whatever expert your interlocutor may bring up. If an expert goes against the consensus of the field, be ready to point that out, along with statistics if you have them or can get them. Any questions?